consumer and on the market.
All right, whether it's the might of consumers in this case or whether it's the might of countries, we do live in a global village. Let's talk a little more about Ireland. We touched on it earlier. What's the latest there, Ian?
Well, from what I'm reading, the situation seems pretty dire, and looking at some of the agricultural press coming out of Ireland, you know, there's some real concerns amongst the farmers there as to what it's going to do to their ability to continue to fund their businesses. Obviously, CAP's coming off and being restructured in terms of some of the direct subsidies, and that's going to happen over the next few years. So they really want to understand where funding's going to come for their businesses. At the moment, they're not able to operate businesses in a proper and profitable manner on a sort of purely market basis. So there is some real issues that the agricultural community are facing there.
And everybody's waiting to see what other countries might be next. Spain, Portugal. James, how is that going to affect us here in New Zealand?
Well, initially we saw Greece, if we go back 6 months now, Greece was the initial problem, and that really blew up the whole of Europe, and we really did see a whole lot of pressures come on the global economy. The markets really tanked, and there was a lot of risk aversion. So through that point, then we did see a little bit more difficult to raise money. Probably the currency drifted lower because of all those risk aversion, and potentially now we're starting to see that a little bit more of that occur again. The focus currently is on Ireland, but now with this bailout, then the focus is now going to go to the next weakest country, that being Portugal or Spain or Italy. So this could go on for quite a while, and it could have some far-reaching effects for the market in general.
Sorry, go on.
I think what it's saying is the European economy is still incredibly weak, and they're not seeing very much sign of recovery up there at all at the moment. And until they start to get some sort of sustained confidence build and recovery, we're going to continue to see these problems. And I'm really concerned about how it's going to flow through and what it's going to do to our markets.
Yeah, what I don't understand is you have a country like Japan, the most heavily indebted country in the world. I think per capita, each person is worth something like $84,000. How come they haven't gone bust?
Yeah, I guess it's slightly different because they're huge savers. So we're consumers. We spend a lot of money. We borrow it. They're massive savers. So they're quite happy to put their money in the bank and just to make sure that they give it to the government, get a minimal return, and then the government can go out and spend it and to provide sort of stimulate that economy, go out and build infrastructure, that sort of thing. So their economy is quite different as opposed to you got the Irish who. Putting things into context, in their economy fell by 10%, sort of over, sort of half a year. This is significant. If we went through that same sort of pain here in New Zealand, then, it would be massive. And they're trying to cut their budgets. They've got a lot of pain to go through yet, and other economies in Europe have also got to go through that same sort of pain.
Okay, across the ditch now, we see that the Aussie government has launched a big investigation into foreign ownership of their land and agricultural products. This week, I see that the Australian Wheat Board was taken over by the Canadians, Agrium. They've taken it over. Isn't that interesting? They're having the same debate there that we are having here. What do you make of that, Ian?
It's really interesting, given that Canada just blocked BHP's acquisition
of
potash a week before. Yeah.
How ironic, yeah.
But I think that's been building in Australia over the last couple of months. I talked to one of my colleagues that works in our agribusiness team over in Sydney about a month ago, and I said, look, a lot of your companies are being taken over at the moment. Is this starting to cause anything? He said, there's rumblings, but nothing major. But I think it really has taken over, and AWB is one of those icons, so taking that off the stock exchanges has really brought the message home. But I think, like the discussion we've had here in New Zealand, they recognise they need foreign investment capital, and they also recognise that a lot of that capital is going to come from markets such as China and Canada, where there is a lot of cash floating around at the moment. So I think they're probably going to go for a similar debate to us. There's going to be a lot of emotion, but I think they're probably going to end up in about the same place.
Really? I see that their government now is calling for a national census into the issues surrounding rural land, foreign ownership. James, do you think that our government should be doing the same kind of census?
No, not really, because it's too emotive. It's without having the correct information to hand, then it's difficult to make that sort of decision. But on the surface, then a lot of these issues around land ownership and foreign ownership, they're really emotive. I'm not sure what a survey or a census would be able to provide in terms of that.
Well, it may be emotive, but I see the head boy at Fonterra, Sir Henry van der Hayden, at the AGM recently in Howrah, was saying quite openly, listen, we got to hold on to our land and our production. What do you make of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we give the control and the ideas to the people with the information to hand, and they've got the expert knowledge, and you know, they know what's happening overseas, where the investment flows are happening, and what the impact could be on the wider New Zealand, then they're the ones that they can make the informed decision. So I think it's really important to keep our crown jewels here in New Zealand, but we also have to treat a bit of a fine line to continue to promote foreign investment here.
Ian, Fonterra had a really phenomenal year, didn't they? How'd they do so well compared to so many other companies?
I think Fonterra has benefited obviously from strong commodity prices, but I think also they have been focusing on a value-add strategy and working to get that strategy in place since Fonterra was founded, so that's now 9 years. And they're starting to see the fruits of that strategy. They understand about building relationships directly with key customers, about working on technological solutions that give them a price premium. And they're doing a lot of the things that I think the wider New Zealand industry needs to be focusing on doing. So I think Fonterra are definitely moving in the right direction, and let's hope some of the other industries can learn from that in the not too distant future.
Let's talk about kiwi fruit now. And the government and the industry put their hands in their pockets and have come up with, what, $50 million to try and control this killer blight that they have. Do you think the government should have been putting its hands into its pockets, Ian?
I think kiwi fruit's an important export market for New Zealand, so it's appropriate the government trying to maintain our economy and support the economy invests where we are earning export dollars. So I don't have any issue with the government supporting this industry. I know there's been some calls from potato growers that they haven't had the same level of support over the last year as they've been fighting.
They've been asking for 18 months, yeah. They're battling on alone.
And maybe the government needs to think about how we can support those growers as well. But kiwi fruit is a $1.4 billion export market out of New Zealand. We don't have too many products in that sort of size, so I think it is important that we do support the industries that are bringing in foreign currency. Okay,
and let's talk very quickly again. Let's touch a little more on the lamb prices. Apparently, you know, everybody's fighting to get the lambs because the prices are going up and up, but we're going to have a shortage of lambs, as you say. What's the long-term effect likely to be?
I think quite severe. Beef and Lamb New Zealand just released their latest update on the new season, and they've said that the early spring storms and the poor weather, it's interesting to note that it's not only the Southland farmers that have been affected, a lot on the North Island have lost lambs too. But we're going to see a shortage of about 10%, so that's 2.8 million lambs down this year. Supply is going to be tight. They still think that we're going to export a lot of lambs because replacements will be killed. But you know, if that does occur, then that's going to have longer term impacts sort of over the next few years. So that supply issue is not going away, and that's going to be good for prices, I think.
Thank you, gentlemen. After the break, who's joining forces to bid for rural broadband? Will it mean win-win for the rural community? And disturbing news from the latest water survey in New Zealand, all about water quality. Who's missing the boat? But first, a question for you in our Farmers Facts and Figures quiz. What's the public debt per capita for New Zealand, the USA, and China? The answer when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Money Talks. Just before the break, we asked you, what's the public debt per capita for New Zealand, the USA, and China? The answer, every man, woman, and child in New Zealand owes $8,200 in public debt, $29,000 in the US, and just $726 in China, according to The Economist. Here at home, there's a new joint broadband bid attempt by fierce rivals. What do you make of this, Ian? Telecom and Vodafone are getting cozy. They want the business.
Well, I think that my view is it's important that we get broadband out into rural communities quickly, because there's a lot of technologies that can be utilised on farm to improve productivity. So if the two biggest companies working together gets the best solution to farmers quickly, then to my mind it's a no-brainer, and I think Vodafone and Telecom have got to be congratulated for actually talking together on this particular issue.
The government apparently wants to make a decision before Christmas. They want it all kind of done and dusted. Is that doable, James?
Well, Christmas is closing in, so you know, it's going to be hard for the two biggest competitors to agree on terms, I would have thought. But I mean, if they can move on, we need to move fast on this, because you know, we are sort of dragging the chain, and we're behind some of our other competitors. competitors. It's a big issue for rural New Zealand and for our productivity and sustainability of the industry, I think. So let's move on with it.
I think it's a really big issue because it's actually about getting people into rural communities as well. People that have moved out, gone overseas, got used to using Facebook and all the other social networking tools, they're not going to go back to rural communities unless they can get access to all that sort of technology. So it's not just a matter of on-farm productivity, it's a matter of getting people into the land as well.
And once that happens, Ian, I mean, what is the growth potential likely to look like for New Zealand? Has anybody crunched the numbers?
Well, personally, I think that there is a lot of productivity upside available from technology. I don't know if anybody's actually done all the numbers, but I think there is research out there that proves if you can have fast broadband, it does improve technology. And to my mind, it's much more important to get it into rural New Zealand than have it running down Rimuera Road so I can download a movie faster.
Although,
when you consider some of the impacts that it can have, I mean, I haven't crunched the numbers, I haven't seen the numbers, what the benefits could be, but you can see the reporting out of farms, you can see weather forecasting is more improved, you can see potentially education, so new systems that are coming out, all these will be available on the internet and only available through fast broadband, so potentially become the industry can become a lot more productive and have better information in terms of what the market is wanting and needing and in terms of their products. So I think it's really important and it can really give us a good leap forward.
Let's talk water now. New survey out says that almost a third of New Zealand lakes have poor water quality. Would that surprise you, James?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. There has been reports that are suggesting water quality has been getting worse, perhaps with intensification of our farmland, but also other impacts that are occurring in the towns and that sort of thing. So it's a big issue, and not only water quality, but water use and water resources.
Of course, the government is now saying, Nick Smith in particular, that's the reason why they had to take over, if you like, water management in the South Island. Is it justified, Ian?
I think you've got to look at the big picture, and globally our water quality is still ranked #2 in the world after Iceland. We've got internationally still very high water standards, but we need to do better. It's an important part of having a sustainable farming system, and if we don't manage things carefully, we're not going to get to where we need to get to in the economy.
Which brings us back to the whole sustainability issue. I mean, I'm assuming people around the world are reading about these surveys as well. It doesn't take much to tarnish our image, if you like.
No, the greenwash is a big threat. And, there's lots of people out there wanting to try and challenge New Zealand's clean green leading image. So we do need to be on our feet. We need to be doing the best we possibly can, and we also need to be making sure that we get good surveys like the Harvard survey. We're out there making sure people understand that and hear about it.
Gentlemen, as always, a pleasure. Thanks to my guests, ASB World Economist James Shortall and Head of Agribusiness for KPMG, Ian Proudfoot. We'd love to hear your feedback, so drop me a line on the website. Remember to check out my weekly blog. We'll give the last word to the Irish Prime Minister and something a former fellow leader, George Bush, once said when asked about documents outlining his government's approach to number crunching. "It's clearly a budget," the president said. "It's got a lot of numbers in it." Keep the faith. See you next time.